Hi, I'm Brittany.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Katie, better known as Joyner.
We are three best friends and professionals, pediatric speech-language pathologists, and moms who try really, really hard. But we are by no means experts.
In many cases, we will be learning right along with you. The advice we offer is of a general nature and certainly does not replace the advice of a medical professional.
We hope you leave our conversation with something in your cup, whether it be laughter, new information, inspiration, a question. We hope we can fill your cup. Welcome to the Cup of Counsel podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the Cup of Counsel podcast, episode 4, titled Mouth Moves. Today we're going to be just having a very basic conversation about speech production.
All right. Brittany, what is in your cup today?
In my cup is first water because we were out in the sun all weekend, which was really fun and different. Yay, spring. And then in my other cup is thoughts and feelings, if you will, I guess, around how intricate our speech production is. So we're going to talk to you guys today about kind of the foundation of what we call the speech mechanism. So the speech mechanism is just kind of a holistic term for everything we need for the speech production. We figured we would do an episode about this just to kind of help lay a foundation for those listeners that maybe aren't SLPs. I think we all agree too that we kind of have to understand these basics of speech production in order to understand future topics.
And it's so cool. Yeah. It is such a cool topic that I find so interesting. And I think even if you're not a speech therapist, you will find this pretty interesting because it's something that a majority of us do. And we take for granted sometimes how intricate it is.
Exactly. Yep. I don't know about you guys, but this is my most favorite part of our field is explaining these little details to parents and educating on that. I really enjoy that part, teaching them like how cool speech is, because I think speech is our passion, like all three of us. And it's awesome. I remember like taking the classes too and being like, holy cow, this is incredible. And something that you would never, ever know.
And to think how much we learn, how much our brain has to learn to talk is crazy to me. It's incredible at how fast your brain is sending messages to your tongue and your lips and going so quickly. And you just naturally do that every day, all the time.
Right. And I guess we should also preface this episode is going to be more about articulation, not about language production. Those are different. We're speech and language pathologists. So we're talking more, the foundation is the production of speech. But we do have people that talk not using speech. Amy, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I am here. Guys, I've been trying to chime in this whole time and they just won't shut up. So yes,
I saw you just sitting there frozen.
I know. Did you see her mouth? Her face was getting so angry. Did you see it? I did.
I'm like, oh yes.
Every time that one of us would start talking again, her face would just get more and more intense.
I was segueing. Do you see how I tried to segue into you? Because I just was like, okay, she needs a segue, I think.
Okay. So yes, we just want to
here's Amy.
Thank you.
Here she is, drum roll. And here she is.
Thank you for this lovely introduction to my podcast. So yeah, we want to just make sure we point out that there are people that communicate without speech, and that will be addressed in future episodes. There are people who use devices and sign language and picture communication systems. So we recognize that not everyone is a speaking communicator, but we will address those topics in future episodes. Today, we just really wanted to cover that background information on basic consonant and vowel production. This is a conversation, like Brittany said, I really like to have this conversation with parents too as we get started, because they maybe know that their child sounds different or isn't, using all the sounds that they should be using, but they don't necessarily see it the same way that we do because they don't have that background. And so when we can pick it apart and see, your child's not saying F and S and Z and V, we can pick apart those sounds and then point that out to a parent, like, this is how you make these sounds. And then they look at their child and realize, like, oh, they are doing different things with their mouth. And when I say these sounds, I do this and they do this. And it usually is like a really big aha moment on how intricate it is and how much goes into something that we just do without even thinking
about, right? I actually had a situation recently where my patient was saying Pete with a P, and the target word, of course, was feet. And I was pretending, like we often do as SLPs, and we say, "Are you sure? Pete," doing minimal pairs or something, like, this picture is Pete, this one is feet. And Mom was in the room and she goes, "He's saying feet." And I was like, exactly. He is saying feet. You are right. He is saying it, but we don't see the F sound for feet. So it's coming out Pete. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's right. But that's your kiddo. And you understand when he says Pete, he means feet." So yeah, it's really fun. I love that part of describing the intricate speech mechanism.
So let's get into it, because I think we could obviously just talk all day long, but let's actually get into the topic, because I'm excited to explain a few of these things that we're talking about. So speech is the finest fine motor skill. And like I said, we kind of just take that for granted by just those who use verbal communication. We just do it. We just talk all day, and we don't realize exactly all the things that are happening. We have our brain that sends our tongue and our cheeks and all of our articulators into certain places, and it does it so fast. Parents do bring their kids in and say, like, I just don't, he's messing up his sounds. He's messing up his sounds. The cool thing is we have a system that actually we can look at, we do an assessment, and we get to test every single sound that kid is making, and then be like, oh, they're doing this sound wrong, this sound wrong, this sound wrong. And then sometimes it's actually a whole group of sounds that are related, and they aren't doing this one thing. And if we correct that one thing and get that one placement, they'll be able to fix everything. Or maybe they're leaving one sound off in a certain position all the time. So it is the coolest thing. So go ahead.
I'm going to interject really fast, because I think we should explain a term that we use quite often that other people might not know. So we talk about articulators, and that's like a whole group of anatomy, like pieces of you that are used to produce speech. So articulators include your tongue, cheeks, lips, teeth, jaw. So when we say articulators, that's what we're talking about. All the little pieces that are involved and need to be in place for speech production to occur.
And they all are coordinating and working together. Okay, and another important piece of our body are our vocal cords. We say vocal folds in the field, but vocal cord is much better known. And those have a whole lot more to them. They can be open, they can be vibrating together, they can do many things. But we'll talk about that later on in a podcast. Maybe we could have a voice specializing SLP, because I think the three of us don't do voice. It's very complex.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a future episode.
And just be aware, if you Google image that, it's going to be...
Yeah, don't Google image.
You might be confused which body part you're looking at.
Yeah, you probably just shouldn't type that into Google image search.
Yeah. Please don't.
Or do. And you'll know what we're talking about.
Google image search vocal cords. You're welcome.
Okay, so that was kind of a lot of information that we kind of just spun into a circle. So let's organize this a little bit and let you know that sounds are grouped together in 3 different parts. And we're going to just talk about those 3 different parts today. So the 3 different parts are voicing, manner, and placement. So Amy, tell us about voicing.
So voicing just means if your voice is turned on or turned off. So if your voice is on, it means your vocal cords are vibrating and producing sound. And if your voice is off, it means your vocal cords are open and there's just air coming through. And then your articulators shape the air or the sound coming out of your mouth to make different consonant or vowel sounds. So we often talk about sounds being either voiced or unvoiced. So I usually have parents feel on their necks and say like a voiced sound vibration and an unvoiced sound. And then they're like, oh my gosh, what? So if you listeners put your hand in the middle of your throat, where your voice box is, you touch there.
Why'd you say it like that? I just don't understand that joke. Is it an inside joke?
It's not an inside joke. I just feel like nobody calls it a voice box.
She always likes to say it like Forrest Gump for some reason.
I feel like maybe that's what they used to call it in the old.
I definitely hear a lot of people say voice box. Okay.
Okay. Well, somebody write in and tell me that I'm wrong about that. Okay.
So hand on the neck.
Hand on the neck and do like the P sound. And you shouldn't feel any vibration in your neck. But then if you do the B sound, you should feel vibration on your neck. And that is from your vocal cords vibrating together to make sound.
And you'll notice that the P and the B are made the exact same way. You're just putting your two lips together. And the only difference is that your voice is on for B and it's off for P. So that's just something kind of cool.
I call them brother and sister sounds.
Yeah, that was creative. I've never heard that, but brother and sister sounds.
Like they go together, but they're different. Yeah. Okay, so that's voicing.
That's voicing. So if you have a kiddo actually who is voicing everything, then you'll see that there will be a consistent air because that's the one thing that they are doing or not doing that is making a difference. And so instead of making a B all the time, they're actually making P's, or instead of making P's, they're actually making B's. So there's one thing. So that brings us into placement, right? So placement there's so many terms that we could use, like bilabials and velars and glottals, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep it simple and easy. So you have your lips, you have your teeth, you have your tongue, you have your cheeks. As Amy just told us, you have air coming up through your vocal folds. And what you do with those articulators is going to determine what sound's going to come out of your mouth. So if you guys want to go ahead, the listeners, and you want to do it with us, for example, a P and a B, like we just talked about, are your two lips going together? You're just going P or ba. Let's say for an F, you now have your bottom lip and teeth together. They get to be friends for a while. So that's a F. You get the same thing if you do V, F, and V. F and V are made the exact same way. One's voiced and one's not. And then for something else, you might have your tongue and your teeth get to hang out for a while. I call it a tongue and teeth sandwich to make like your TH sound. So it just depends on where your teeth, your tongue, your cheeks, your lips are determining what that air is going to sound like when it comes out of your mouth. And that's placement. It's just where you have everything, where it goes and where it doesn't go. And some kids and adults get it. They get the right placement, or they're not getting the right placement. They're making it incorrectly. And that's when we notice like, oh, they're not doing something right.
Or we have our cleft lip and palate patients that don't have those parts and need surgeries to put them in place so they can make the correct placements.
Right. So it's very cool how it's all air. It's just where you are putting your lips and your teeth and your tongue and your cheeks. Where they are going is going to determine what sound's going to come out of your mouth. And think about that. Think how fast you are doing that to put words and sounds together, how fast that is happening.
And that leaves us with the third group called manner. So this one can be a little bit more confusing, but the way I like to describe it to my patients' parents is kind of like the category of sound. So our sounds have a bunch of different categories. And like Joyner said, I could sit here and list all the categories. But to me, I think this part is a little bit abstract and confusing. So I'm not going to list all the names. I'll just give some examples. So basically, sounds can also be grouped by the manner in which they're produced. So an early one, an easy one that I teach parents about are nasals. And that is where a sound is produced through the nasal cavity. So if you say the M sound or the N sound, you can easily feel how it's coming out of your nose. So everything is closing and going through your nose. So that's called a nasal. Another category would be a stop plosive. So a stop plosive is an explosive sound. So explosive sounds are exactly what they sound like. They kind of explode one time out of our mouth, like the B sound, buh. You can just say it once. It just pops, buh, pops out. Another one would be tuh or duh.
These are what beatboxers are real good at.
Yeah, beatboxers are good at. Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of stop plosives.
I like that. I'm going to say that now.
Stops are my favorite. I don't know why.
I like stops, yeah.
Stops are my favorite.
The other one I like to explain is fricatives. So fricatives are air friction that you can, I always tell parents, you can say it forever. A stop you can say once, but a fricative you can say forever because you're just making the air friction. So like we'll say F just goes, you can say it forever. S is also a fricative. So those are just 3 examples. There are many more, but we won't get into all of them.
So now that Brittany has told you like what a nasal is, what a stop is, and what a fricative is, it's kind of fun. I mean, granted, we're kind of nerdy about this, but it's a little bit fun. Like go ahead, think of sounds and see what they are. So, you know, a fricative, like she said, is going to go on. Air is going to keep going. So, and a stop is going to stop. That's what it's called. So you got pa, it stops. And a nasal is going to be up in your nose. So go ahead and just like go through the sounds, and then you'll be able to know if it's a fricative, a stop, or a nasal. It's kind of something fun to do.
And you can look up all the other manners too, if you would like. It's pretty fascinating.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap things up tonight. That was a little background information on how different consonant sounds are produced and how we look at sounds. And it's just a lot more than I think many people realize. So we gave you just a little taste of it. And we're definitely going to spend more time in multiple future episodes talking about typical speech development, what sounds your child should know at what ages or have at what ages, what percentage of speech you should be able to understand from your child, different disorders, common disorders, or issues that we see pop up with kids. So we're going to have plenty of more information on this topic in the future. But for tonight, I think that's enough. And Brittany, what is in your to-go cup?
In my to-go cup is just an appreciation for my articulators and all the motor planning and things that are happening in my brain to help all my articulators form the correct sounds. What's in your cup, Joyner?
So in my to-go cup, I think I am just really grateful for the people before us who studied all of this.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Put them in these categories and made basically the speech science what it is. So I am grateful for the ones before us who took the time to learn all of this, and it's been passed on, and all the educators of it.
That is a really good one.
Yes. Amy, what is in your to-go cup?
Well, can I just give a shout out about what's really in my cup tonight?
Yes, of course.
Because I was really excited about this one because I found this one in our refrigerator and it's not available any longer. So it is a local brew from Jack Pine, and it is called Neon Pink, and it is a cotton candy beer, which is kind of delicious and pink. Anyway, that's in my real cup. But in my to-go cup,
Yum.
I hate following Joyner. She's always so deep and good with her words. In my to-go cup, though, I think I have just been reflecting a little bit on how I think I could probably do, like, I feel like I have this conversation with families often, but I think I could do it more often. I think having some basic knowledge on speech production and how the sounds are formed and what parts have to come together to make specific sounds, and just giving parents a little bit more education so they feel like they have a hand in what their child is working on. I feel like that's my takeaway, just to try to be more aware of if I'm providing enough background information for parents so that they understand what we're doing and what their child's working on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we also hope that you feel confident to go out and practice some of those sounds, like Joyner was saying. Look them up, figure out what they are, but also know that we will have future episodes coming to discuss all the typical development, like Amy was saying. So stay tuned.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you liked what you heard, please hit subscribe or follow so you know each time a new episode is posted.
Please do us a giant favor and join our Facebook group and follow our Instagram page, Cup of Counsel Podcast. A review would really help us out too.
Let us know what you loved, what you want to hear more about, and what we could do to improve this podcast to make it the most meaningful for you. Thank you.